Diet plays a major role in many health conditions, and healthier diet options can significantly reduce mortality. Spoiler alert, vegetables are good for you, and overconsumption of meat and saturated fats are not. So, swap that plate of steak, liver and eggs for some carrot sticks and hummus, you caveman, while we begin breaking down the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is a form of the keto diet, a program which only calls for the intake of meat, poultry, seafood, eggs, fish, water, and low lactose dairy products in small amounts. The keto diet works on the idea that in a state of ketosis, where the body doesn't obtain enough energy from glucose and other sugars, it will compensate and burn fat, which creates ketones. Ketones are a chemical your liver produces to break down fats as a response. While some keto diets promote the intake of healthier fats, the carnivore diet promotes a primary intake of animal fat, which is mostly saturated and the unhealthiest kind of fat, which can raise levels of cholesterol, though this is a disadvantage of all keto diets to an extent. Risk of following the keto diet can lead to an increased likelihood to develop kidney stones, gout, osteoporosis, colon cancer, and heart disease. The stress on the kidneys for overly large consumption of protein may also lead to their impaired function. To sum up, just eat your bloody vegetables. The difference between the Planetary Health diet and the Mediterranean diet is subtle. The Planetary Health diet's main focus is on a high consumption of fruit and vegetables, followed by whole grains, legumes, nuts, and unsaturated oils. Starchy vegetables, dairy, poultry, and fish are permitted in moderation, along with a very low consumption of red meat, saturated fat, and sugars. The Mediterranean diet also has a focus on fruits and vegetables, but grains take centre stage. When it comes to meat, white or lean is more common than red, and dairy products, fish, eggs are allowed in moderation. Olive oil acts as the main dietary fat. When a large study followed 11,488 Spanish people's food intake, physical activity, and drinking patterns, they found that higher adherence to either the Planetary Health diet or the Mediterranean diet was associated with lower mortality from all causes. The third of people with the highest adherence to the Planetary Health diet had a 22% lower mortality rate than those in the bottom third. For the Mediterranean diet, the number was 21%. As far as environmental impact, both diets cause similar, relatively low greenhouse gas emissions. Higher adherence to both diets was similarly associated with lower all-cause mortality. I'm telling you, it really is good to eat your veggies. The Atlantic diet takes its inspiration from traditional cuisine found in northern Portugal and the northwestern Spanish autonomous community of Galicia. It's not a million miles away from the Mediterranean diet, with lots of fruit, veggies, and whole grains, as well as seafood, but there are some differences. Most notably, an Atlantic diet would typically contain more dairy and starchy carbohydrates, such as bread and potatoes. The diet emphasizes using local, minimally processed produce wherever possible, and typically relies on simple cooking methods, such as grilling, baking, and stewing. A study assessed the impact of following an Atlantic diet on indicators of metabolic syndrome. This is an umbrella term for a physiological state that puts someone at higher risk of conditions like type 2 diabetes and heart disease, and it's been associated with obesity, a sedentary lifestyle, overconsumption of alcohol, and smoking, among other factors. On this point, the Atlantic diet performed quite well. Of the 457 participants who did not have metabolic syndrome at the start of the trial, 23 of them went on to develop it during the follow-up period. Of these, 17 were in the control group and just 6 were in the diet group, a statistically significant difference. A small number of people in both groups had previously met the criteria for metabolic syndrome no longer did by the end of the trial. Participants following the diet were also 42% less likely to have a new symptom of metabolic syndrome by the end of the trial. The takeaway is, if people generally follow a diet high in vegetables, fruit, healthy sources of fat, legumes, and protein, it can improve a variety of risk factors for several chronic diseases. So, after looking into all of these diets, does one rule above them all? When a study looked at biological samples from over 21,000 individuals to find this out, it revealed that diets that include or exclude major food groups such as meat, dairy, fruits, and vegetables leave its mark on the gut microbiome. Although vegan and vegetarian participants had healthier diets than omnivores, the omnivores studied had a higher rate of gut microbiome diversity. But whilst this may seem like a win for the omnivores, gut microbiome diversity alone isn't a reliable measurement of how healthy that microbiome is. The gut microbiomes of omnivores contained higher levels of bacteria that are associated with meat digestion, which stands to reason. However, they also had increased diversity in bacteria associated with increased risk of disease, including inflammatory bowel disease, heart disease, and certain cancers. Vegans were packing a lot of bacteria crucial for fiber fermentation. Some of those bacteria can be good for reducing inflammation, as well as contributing to a healthy metabolism and immune system function. As for vegetarians versus vegans, it seemed the key difference here came down to dairy, as vegetarians had more Streptococcus thermophilus in their microbiome signature. This bacterium is used in yogurt production and can influence certain toxins in the gut. However, while the study dived into different dietary preferences, one of its key takeaways applied to omnivores, vegetarians, and vegans, and it was found that the quality of diet really ruled above them all when it came to having a favourable microbiome composition. So, colourful plates at the ready, let this be the year of enjoying all that the vegetable aisle has to offer.